the opportunity to speak here. I'm going to talk about the different aspects of the persecution of Bahá'ís in Iran. First, I wanted to start by talking about three specific cases. 5-month-old Barman, 10-month-old Rassam, and 3-year-old Artin. Barman and his mother, Mrs. Tarne Torabi, were taken to prison in September 2012 in order for Mrs. Torabi to begin serving her 20-month sentence, which she was given because she was a Baha'i. And Barman's father, Mr. Irfan Ehsani, was also later, some months later, taken into prison. And they were both arrested because of their belief in the Baha'i faith. And Barman, because of the bad conditions in prison, he got a lung condition and had to be transferred to the hospital to undergo treatment. Rassam is also in prison with his mother, who's serving her 30-month terms, also since September 2012. And she's also in prison because she's a Baha'i. And he also became ill and had a bowel infection and ear problems. And he had to be taken out of prison by his father to go to the hospital. Artin's parents, Mr. Kamran Rahimian and Farhan Hesami, have both been arrested and taken to prison because they were involved in an online informal college-level initiative that Baha'i started because Baha'i students are not allowed to go to university in Iran. And because they were involved in this initiative, they were both in prison and have been sentenced to 4- and 5-year sentences. And Artin has to live with his old grandmother, who's alone at the moment. I think you guys know more or less about the persecution of Baha'is in Iran, but I'll give a general overview. The persecution of Baha'is started in the early years of the revolution with more than 200 Baha'is being executed because they were Baha'is. And this persecution has taken on different forms in recent years by becoming more and more systematic, a systematic plan by the government to destroy the Baha'i community in Iran. And as you know, there are only 3 religions that are recognized in the Iranian constitution: Christianity, Judaism, and Zoroastrianism. And Baha'is are not part of these recognized religions. And so when Iranian officials talk about the rights of minorities at the UN or other international areas, Baha'is are actually not included because they're not even recognized as a religion in the constitution. And the systematic plan of the government became apparent in 1991 by a government memorandum that was requested by Ayatollah Khamenei and signed by him and the then president, Mr. Rafsanjani, who said that Baha'is, for example, had to be treated in such a way that their progress would be stopped. And this memorandum said that if Baha'is were recognized as Baha'is in university, they would have to be expelled, they would not be given employment, and their children could go to school as long as it was not known that they were Baha'is. And Baha'is really face persecution at every stage of their lives. As children, they're persecuted in schools. In many cases, we've had children who have been beaten or expelled. In one case in Shiraz, a 7-year-old girl, her hand was burnt by her teacher because she did not want to participate in the congregational prayers that happened in school. And this just goes to show that the teachers and the officials that are supposed to be really helping the children and standing up for their rights are really themselves the perpetrators of these violations. And as I said, Baha'is are not allowed to go to university. When they get to the university level, their jobs are denied. Even Baha'is who have small businesses or stores, they're closed down or burnt down in many areas in Iran. And even their cemeteries are not spared. So we've had many cases where the cemeteries have been desecrated and bulldozed by government officials. And these all just go unnoticed in Iran with complete impunity. Baha'is, in response to the denial of higher education because they were not allowed to go to university, they started an online as I said, an informal college in their kitchens and living rooms to provide some kind of university-level education to their youth who badly wanted to go to university. And just some time ago, after raids on homes of more than 30 educators and coordinators of this initiative, this was also closed and banned in Iran. And so even this, something as simple as this, was banned to them. As the speaker before me said, in Iran, many religious minorities are persecuted, such as Sufis, Sunnis, and even Christians. But what makes the situation of Baha'is even more grave and particularly bad is that it is state-sponsored and happens at the highest level of the government. In a recent report that the Baha'i international community published, which actually we have some copies on the table if you're interested, we looked at how the incitement to hatred against the Baha'is in the media has encouraged more violence against the Baha'i community. And in our analysis, we saw many cases of individuals who were physically assaulted by either government agents, mobs, or unknown assailants. Some Baha'is have been murdered, and at least 5 of them have been under suspicious circumstances. And many of these attacks, as I said, have come at the hands of low-level security officials or interrogators, but others have also come from anonymous individuals or groups who many times are supported by the government. Baha'is have also been tortured or placed in solitary confinement in an effort to obtain confessions or false crimes from them. The 7 former leaders of the Baha'i community are now in prison. They have been in prison for almost 5 years. This May it will be 5 years. And they were given 20-year sentences, the longest sentence ever given to any prisoner of conscience in Iran during the Islamic Republic. And these 7 were responsible for taking care of such things in the Baha'i community as Baha'i marriages or death and other things, and really just to be able to keep the community alive. But even this was banned, and the 7 leaders are now in prison. Today we have 110 Baha'is in prison, and every day we see more cases of children being persecuted in schools, more stores being closed, and more Baha'is being arrested and imprisoned. And although the persecution of Baha'is in Iran has not only received a lot of attention internationally by governments and the media and the UN and academics and other people, but I have to say that the Iranian people within Iran have really shown the world that they don't agree with the government's treatment of the Baha'is, and that it doesn't affect all of them, even the media campaign or the violence. In one case, a Baha'i student was expelled from university for being a Baha'i, and 26 students complained and also refused to participate in the exam because this Baha'i had been expelled. Or when officials desecrated Baha'i homes in the village of Ivel, other villagers complained about this and apologized to the Baha'is for what had happened to them. So it really shows that it's really the Iranian government that's perpetrating these acts, and the officials. And as hard as they're trying, people in Iran are seeing who the Baha'is are. They're becoming friends and neighbors and colleagues and classmates. And more we see Iranians, Muslims, Christians, everyone really rising up and defending the Baha'is. Thank you.